Coming to tonight's session, please allow me to welcome Kunal Johri, the host of this session. For over 14 years, Kunal has been leading teams to deliver world-class products. Starting his career at Infosys, where he was building applications for Fortune 500 companies, he went on to lead product teams at SAP and now heading the innovation zone at EY. He's super passionate about conceptualizing, nurturing, developing, and proving new ideas and developing them into new solutions. At EY, he directly manages experience building multi-skilled teams capable of rapid prototyping new ideas. Kunal is a graduate of National Institute of Technologies with a BTech in Metallurgy and Material Sciences, an MBA from Institute of Product Leadership in pursuing the EMBA program in Product Leadership. Great to have you here with us, Kunal. Handing the session over to you now.
Thank you, Shama. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. Great. So we see a trend and defining requirements. Their results are still pouring in, but majority of them says defining requirements. Excellent. This will help me build the story over the sessions going forward. Yeah. Great. So thank you very much. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, who is going to talk to us about how top products use the network effect and the loops to build long-term product differentiations. This is one such topic personally I'm interested in, and we should all be deeply interested in. You may ask why? Because it helps us understand the strategies applied by great consumer-driven digital organizations to create differentiated value for your customer. Few key takeaways from the sessions will be that you will be able to understand what are different network effects. You will also be able to understand the key product loops applicable to digital products, and also understand the application of network effects and loops in real-world digital products. Our speaker, although having spent almost his entire career engaging with the product communities like Product School, Plateau, Upgrad, and IPL, where he has been mentoring many of the young and aspiring product managers, is also a passionate cricket player. He grew up in the northern part of India and stays with his wife Hina and son Akshu in Delhi. He is an alumni of IIM Calcutta with an enormous experience of product management, product marketing, growth strategy, consulting, business planning, and team management. I mean, wow, this is awesome. With a keen focus on developing winning user experience and long-term retention strategy for their customers. He's a professional who has specialized in various industries like internet, information technology, mobile, e-commerce, analytics for more than 15 years now, and has really headed the products of some of the best-in-class organizations like Gojek, Expedia, Adobe, and Airtel. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Akhil Sharma, the Global Product Leader at Gojek. Welcome, Akhil.
Sure. Thanks, Kunal, for such a kind introduction in there. Really glad to have this opportunity to today present my views on how the global organizations can actually use new set of thought processes and thought frameworks to actually really create differentiated experiences for them. I think at this point, I think I do want to give a lot of credit to some of my mentors who actually I learned from, the VP of product at Expedia, John Kim, was really instrumental in giving me that kind of information, that kind of a learning and training as I shaped up my career in the organization as well. I think I've learned from various, say, top industry leaders on that front. I think all the credit for that would go to some of the main teachers that I've had over these years. And that is exactly what I am looking to do, disseminating the same knowledge that I've gained over the years with all the learners that are aspiring to be in the product management or even looking to build their careers, looking to tackle some of the great product challenges that they have right now battling with. So yeah, without further ado, I can actually move on to the presentation for today. It's going to be a very, very interactive kind of a session. We'll be talking about how various companies have used say these thought frameworks, especially in developing core user experiences that are that have differentiated themselves from some of their competition itself. So with that, are we good to go? And should we start, Kunal, on your cue?
I'm really excited. Let's rock and roll.
Sure. Thanks. Hey guys, so yeah, let me actually switch over to the presentation mode here. Yeah, we'll be talking about key network effects and the product loops for long-term product differentiation in there. And as Kunal has already mentioned, I'm currently working as Gojek product leader for GoBiz merchant platform team. In there, prior to this, I was working with Expedia in their global travel insurance products, and then I've worked with companies such as Adobe, American Express, Airtel in my past product experiences as such. If you have any things that you want to discuss, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. The URLs are available. You can find me with Akhil Sharma 85 as a search within India as a geography. And if you also want to connect with me through my website, you can actually connect with me through crackthepm.graphy.com. Okay, so moving on to the agenda of our course today. We'll be talking about what do we actually mean by the term network effects. I think that is one of the first points that we want to address. I think this is one term that you might have heard a lot of the times. A lot of industry leaders use this, especially in e-commerce, say social media businesses. What does actually network effect mean? That would be the first agenda point. We'll be talking about secondly, what sort of key product loops are applicable to digital products as well. And then at the same time, also understand application of both these concepts, the product concepts in the real world digital products as we see, say unfolding in front of our eyes these days. So that's the core agenda. And of course, I'll be happy to take your questions during, say, the end of this presentation. And meanwhile, we'll have certain polls in between for audience interaction to understand how you understood the topic, or if there are specific ideas around certain key concepts that we'll talk about today. So moving forward, let's actually talk about what do we mean by network effect. So essentially, a network effect occurs when a product or service really becomes exponentially valuable to its user. So think about, say, a network that started to grow linearly, but has attained a critical mass. And at that point, it really shoots up in terms of both the size of the network, and if you try and plot a graph around time, you would see a very, very exponential curve, really something an asymptotic experience in there for how your users have grown on that front. I think some of the top entrepreneurs have mentioned this to be the single most predictable attribute of the current high value technology companies that differentiates them. Essentially, how do you create this virtuous cycle? So think about typical network effects. So buyers generally join the platform, so we get more demand side users in there, which encourages sellers to participate. So think of examples such as Amazon in there. I think that is something that is globally relevant. I think Flipkart in India was able to create something similar. Gojek and Tokopedia in Indonesia and Southeast Asia were also prime examples of this. And in Japan, I think Rakuten actually grew very, very similarly. And Facebook, of course, is one of the prime examples as well. So if you actually look at, say, the set of steps that actually happen, they actually happen in a cycle. Once the buyers join in program, that actually encourage sellers to participate, adding a layer of sellers to the network. which encourages buyers to join again, and which means the size of the opportunity increases for them, which actually creates another loop for sellers to come onto the table, again creating that, say, spiral loop for the entire population to grow significantly. Also, the kind of value, the value that each of the participants draws from that platform really increases exponentially as this loop continues to execute itself. So think about what are the laws that really affect network effect. So think of traditional businesses with say number of users that actually grow. Think of traditional car dealership, for example. As the number of dealerships, as the number of users would grow, the number of dealerships would also grow. More of a linear traditional business path in there. But where business effects really change when for a business with network effects, you would see them starting slightly smaller at a smaller scale, but really amassing that critical mass that is needed. And then you see that curve really shooting up itself, which really crosses this linear curve at a point and really moves to the next trajectory, to the moon, as Elon Musk says. I think most of those companies that we are talking about today have shown to the world that this is possible, and how, say, core products which are really focused on user value would actually mean, that they are able to create some value which is really beyond the linear effects that could be there. So think about Metcalfe's law in there. So essentially, this is one law that really talks about that started with telecom connections as a network effect in there. So the value of the network really grows as the square of the total number of its users, which if you try and plot on a mathematical scale is actually an exponential equation in there. Thus, the ratio of the value to the cost of adding one more network user grows disproportionately as the network grows larger. That is an essential point. In economics, we've learned concepts around, say, diminishing value of return. In case of network effects, actually, the, uh, the returns do not diminish. Actually, they grow even larger with even a single addition at every single point in time. Of course, another strong law that goes in for network effects is Parabasi's mathematical law. It's basically based on principles of growth and preferential attachment. So basically, more connected a node is within the system, the more opportunities are going to be for it to attract more suppliers, or say more connections as such, to complete that network itself. Think of, say, an organization within, say, why do we talk about companies that have grown significantly while some of the companies were left behind? Because I think these were able to create those network effects early in the cycle, and that's why they became those preferential nodes, and eventually were able to attract more such connections, leading to more, say, scale effects coming into them as such. So think of Amazon, why it was able to beat some of its competitor. Think of Facebook, why it was able to beat MySpace so soon, and by that margin. So a lot of those laws you would see are playing in there. And yeah, that's enough of theory. Let's actually try and see what do you really understand about the new age companies in there. Which of these following companies do you see probably would use network effects? Say, there are Amazon, Ubers of the world, Expedia, Swiggy, Gojek. What is your answer on that one? So maybe it's poll time for us. Let's see how many of you think which of these companies really uses network effects overall. The answer could be all of the above as well. So maybe we can start, Shama or Kunal, if the polling is ready, maybe we can start that and try
The
and
poll is already live, Akhil.
Okay.
Yeah.
do we wait for the poll to end? And
yeah, just a few seconds for the audience to vote, and then you can carry on. I'll just share the results, and you can carry on with the presentation.
Sure, sure. Yeah, just on your cue then.
Right. So viewers on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, please click on the Slido link in the comment section to take the poll. The link will take you directly to the questions. Akhil, on Zoom, we have about 66% of the audience is saying it is all of the above. 22% say Amazon, and about 8% say Uber and Swiggy. No one for Expedia.
Yeah.
Or Gojek. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess say here as well. The dominant portion of the population wins. I think network effects are in play here as well. It's actually all of the above. All of these companies that we see above are industry leaders in their space and have been able to create and really tap into network effects. There are more examples actually around this, but I just wanted to show, conduct this poll just to highlight the importance of network effects and how new age companies, any new age company that you would talk about at this point in time, would be using network effects in some way or the other. So let's see how and which types of network effects would they be using. So let's move on to that portion of our discussion. Again, just to give you an example, Expedia, Uber, Swiggy, all of them actually use network effects. Think of Expedia, there is a supplier network, there is a traveler network as well. And there are a suite of services that we actually offer to them. So when more travelers use our platform, the more suppliers will want to provide supply to our user sets, and that would mean more hotels, more cars, more flight options. That would in turn increase the value for some of our users and travelers, and that means more people would come in to join. So that's a network effect right in there that is working for e-commerce players such as Expedia as well. Think of some of the companies such as say Swiggy or say Uber, for example. So generally, what happens? There are various types of network plays in there, and that's just one of the examples to showcase how this network effect can be such a complex ecosystem of interplays that would happen. So think about what are the players within the ecosystem. There are say people who would demand these services, say demand delivery, demand to move from one point to the other. There are drivers within the system, and then there are specific effects that come in because of geographic coverage and saturation. There are specific efficiencies that get built over time, which is less driver downtime, lower prices, and faster pickups as both drivers and the demand side actually increases. And that's why the IPO for Uber was $40 billion, and it's actually still growing as a company in that sense. And so many companies have actually used and utilized this. So there are so many effects that really drive business efficiencies and not just the overall value within the ecosystem that can really transform your company overall. Think about network, think about any new age digital company, and you would find at least one network effect being played out there. So let's go back to some bit of theory now. Let's try and understand what sort of major effects, network effects exist. Generally, I will be talking about three major types of network effects today. But if you go and try and do your research, you'd find as many as 17 variations of network effects being utilized by some of the companies. But fundamentally, there are these three concepts that really govern all the types of network effects that are the variations that you'd see. So think about the direct or same side network effects in there. In this case, each user adds the value by their mere presence itself. Since everyone who's looking for and receiving is really looking for the same benefits as well as receives the same kind of benefits. Think of social media, for example. How did Facebook actually grow? Really, more users coming onto the platform meant that they wanted to say find they had a very similar behavior that they sought after. They all they wanted to connect with their community. That's why they actually got more of your friends joining in there. That's where you got virality spiraling up, and that's where they started sharing content within their community as well. So a lot of the social media examples that you see, Twitter, for example, Facebook, for example, um, or for example, LinkedIn as well. A lot of those have really grown on direct or same side network, which is where users, the more users the platform had, they were able to say expand, say that much faster within their the same side of the network in there. So yeah, again, the examples that we were talking about, there are say plenty in there. Especially if you look at how all of these say new networks have proliferated across the industry. You would find Facebook, you would find Google Plus, you'd find Twitter, you'd find all the sorts of companies really expanding on that front. Behance, again, a network effect that is in play from the community side at Adobe as well. So think of WhatsApp as well. So WhatsApp, why did WhatsApp grow versus some of our competition in there? And that's primarily because when most of my friends were there on WhatsApp, I actually, even if I say thought that some other services were better, or I might have been using SMS till that time, I was forced to actually come to this network to say in my say for my need to actually even communicate with my friends in there. So that actually went and created that virality for them, and really the user base expanded, and now the entire value is really increased because on the same site, new users have been acquired in there. Even YouTube, for example, some of us consider them to be an entertainment play, but they have also grown very, very, let's say, on the back of strong network effects on the user side itself. Moving forward, there is another, type of network effect in play, which is called indirect or cross-site network effects. So think of, say, some of the things around what would really depend on the ecosystem being there. So the image on the right is basically an ecosystem, symbiotic relationship that exists between fishes and the corals. Increase in usage of one product or network spawns the increase the value of a complementary product or a network, which can increase the value to the original itself. So what do you think could actually be say using or utilizing such kind of network effects in there? The answer is a lot of Play Stores. Think of Apple Play Store, think of Google Play Store in there. These are platforms that really deliver additional services or software to an ecosystem which is already growing. So think of why Amazon created Kindle. Was it only to say spawn a new genre in there, or was it also to increase a substantial value of its platform to the users and thereby actually adding another layer of network effects? The more ebooks are there, the more valuable e-readers are, and that's where the entire ecosystem started say working. Why did Apple say grow so much? Why is it the gold standard in terms of really creating strong moats for users in there? They've actually created an entire portfolio of services and platforms that are on their say platform or for their device itself. The more iPhone apps are there, for example, on the Apple Play Store uh, or App Store itself, the more iPhone has utility for the end user, and that's actually creating those indirect effects for the entire ecosystem itself. So very strong. Sometimes some of the effects which we do not see by the mere eye can also exist in the real world and digital companies in that. And then lastly, we come to the platform or two-sided network effects. That is something that everyone knows. Basically, most of the e-commerce sites that you've really worked with or used in your life, an increase in activity of one group creates more value for the other group, which is say suppliers as well as say both supply side and the demand side. uh, Basically, more buyers are there, that attracts more sellers to the marketplace, that thereby more products are available on that platform, which means that no new buyers could come in to this platform because of the availability of those products and suppliers in there. That actually creates the two-sided network effects, and that's where say companies such as Amazon really grew significantly and at a very fast clip, and still growing in the current market, in the current scenario as well. For example, consider e-commerce as well, the travel e-commerce as well. So as the share of new user grows, more suppliers, hotels, and buyers would want to go and join a network, which actually creates the potential revenue for suppliers, which means they are willing to offer new, say, inventory, and that means again new users will come in because of the supply, or the kind and variety of the supply which is available. So yeah, let's look at the examples. Again, Amazon, Ubers of the world, eBay of the world, or even say examples of Facebook, for example, wherein ads are coming onto a platform such as Facebook, because or say a lot of people are really coming onto say Facebook as a platform to really offer that additional value to the users, and thereby increasing the overall value for the ecosystem itself. So the more say uh, number of users are there, more are the ways in which suppliers can offer value on that platform, creating thereby two set of network effects. Think of how say a lot of games proliferated on Facebook initially, and social gaming as a sector say really evolved because of Facebook, and then Facebook also benefited because there were these kind of things which were available on that as on that platform itself. So yeah, again, I think we are heading into a hole from here. Let's try and understand again which network effects are exhibited by Google search as a product. So it's a say slightly more complicated one, but let's see how many are able to really answer this one. And the answers would be again all of the above: direct kind of network effects, platform kind of network effects, or indirect kind of network effects as well. So let's see how people answer this one.
Poll is live up.
Sure. Yeah, on your queue again on this one as well. Just let me know when answers are there. Simon, there's a timer running there in the background. Yeah, I think pretty interesting questions that I see on the Q&A as well. I'll try and answer some of them during the end as well.
So we have the results here for the poll. 67% say it's all of the above, 19 say it's direct, and 7% say it is platform and indirect.
So think about platforms. Platform is two-sided. Network effect, direct is made mostly say one side of users growing and creating the value, and indirect is again say some of the platform, some of the core elements of that platform, really adding value to the entire ecosystem. So yes, again, the answer is all of the above. Google is a company which is an ecosystem of products. Its entire platform is based on search. So the more powerful the search tool is, the more people use search, that actually makes their products much more valuable in terms of the data that their products get as such. So indirect effects are definitely at play. Think of Google Maps, for example. Why did it become such a powerful product? Think of a lot of widgets that you start seeing on Google search itself. So you see Google is getting into, say, hotel sales, to e-commerce, to anything that you have a question on. So that's really there. And think about the platform itself, which is a two-sided effects. More people search, more websites are willing to they share their data with Google and really abide by Google SEO policies on that front. So that's where almost entire web is really following those same standards in there, and that's where web actually in itself proliferated. I will give a lot of that credit to how Google really shaped up the internet in there because of their strong search algorithms in there. And then of course direct. Direct is why I see more value in using Google search, and I actually get you as one of my network to actually start experiencing this product and then find the value for yourself. And that's actually creating more value. And that's where Google search is probably the most used product across the world by far. So again, the answer was all of the above, and good job, guys. You're really keeping up on some of the concepts there. How are we doing on the time? I guess we have some time.
We do have Akhil, we do have some time. Yeah, and it's so interesting that I forgot the timer also. So please carry on, move on.
Sure. Actually, let's move on to the next stage of our conversation, and that is around unlocking the product loops. This is one concept that you might have heard in passing at times, may not have heard the complete, details of it. But of course, when you look at the fundamentals, you'll find that a lot of companies are using these concepts again. So let's talk about what those product loops could be. So yeah, essentially, what is a product loop? A product loop is basically a repeated set of interactions that occur between the user and the platform in a way that it provides an opportunity to improve the entire platform and build stronger experiences and product mode as the cycle continues. So think about, you start with an idea, you build, you implement, you validate, and you start learning. And that's where your loops start performing. You then use those feedbacks to improve your products. And then your product idea also becomes an iteration in there. And you continue on this cycle. And as you see that the cycle repeats itself, the whole value for the entire platform keeps on increasing. So the best companies actually learn not just based on one starting terrific idea, but their continuous ability to really feed back into what they've learned from the user, what they've picked up from each of the interactions with the user and the platform, and how they were able to improve their products eventually. And that's where there's continuous innovations. That's why some of our jobs exist as product managers, because that is the essential things that we bring into the table when we are able to look at a strong concept that was delivered initially, but we are able to continuously improve that through our understanding of these product loops that we can actually control for better product experience eventually. Why would Facebook, for example, still continue to hire product managers in bulk when it has a product market fit, it has a product which is already strong? Think of Google as well. The same reason really drives them to really make their product even better and better by utilizing these loops in that. So moving forward, let's talk about what are the major product groups for us. So let's first talk about one of the loops that you would have heard a lot, and that is the data loop. So ML and say data science, the recent foray into that say as an endeavor has really enriched or say resulted in rich dividends for each of the users and each of the companies in there. We typically start with capturing and identifying the click stream. That is where you would see a lot of MongoDBs, say Hadoop tables getting populated. Now every digital product is really finicky about capturing almost everything which is possible in there from the user interaction perspective. Then you actually start to evaluate what is the matching problem that the site needs to say follow on that one. So for example, for an e-commerce, it is basically a match between the product that a user is looking for and then a person and the user itself. This matching problem could actually mean slightly different on a dating site base or say on a social site wherein you'd want to connect with the relevant people and relevant folks depending on the user profile itself. And then you keep looking at that model, say add ML layers onto that as a mathematical model, and you deploy and test the adapted models again. This again becomes your core cycle to improve the product. So that's where say you see a lot of recommendation engines being used by companies such as Spotify, who would know the more songs that you listen to on their platform, the better their recommendations would become. Similarly for YouTube, for example, they've here really utilized and perfected these mathematical models in terms of recommendations. Netflix again is a prime example on that front. So essentially, three steps in this problem: really capture and log the most important part of the data. Generally, you'd see now people are logging everything with Hadoop coming in there. Develop that core click stream. Define your entity, combination of attributes that your site offers as the core product. For example, a match between, say, an e-commerce site would actually offer a product, while say social media or say corporate networking site would offer a connection in there. Then you talk about what is the discovery spectrum, the range of questions that define how a customer really finds that problem. Say it finds what they were really looking for. Basically, the answer is when a user comes to your website or your app, what were they originally intending to do? On an OTT platform, that may be entertainment, listening to a song, watching a movie. On a dating site, that would be finding the right match. Social media, it might be connecting with the right job offers, or say right say set of people that are interested in similar things. So that is the kind of things that a user is coming to do on your platform, and then you identify the core matching problem at each of those steps. So when you actually want to connect the dots, you'd find that there is a solution to each product user need in there, and that is where your recommendation engines, your say lookalike segmentations start working in and taking it. That's where you start adapting the model. You deploy and adapt the new mathematical models, and that have core feedback loops that actually improve your overall experience and on the site itself. So that's clear. That's very important concept with new age products. They're really logging everything and really creating mathematical models to really develop a better match for the user. So again, which is the core example of this? Netflix. Netflix really employs data. It's one of the highest paying organizations to data scientists in the world right now. So Netflix initially really rebranded itself from an offline DVD selling player to something that actually really exploded on the scene when it came to the internet way of delivering music, content, and entertainment in there. So think about all the interactions that they have. They have searches. They have what show you want to see. They want to know on which device what type of entertainment is really to be shown. For example, short form of content probably better works better on say mobile devices. They also listen to things such as how what has been your program pause time, so which actually tells them where they can actually improve the integrations even further. They create say in some of the developed markets, they also offer credit for the customer to actually say extend their subscription, uh, which uh, which type of programs you watch again and again, what has been your watch history, what is the rating of things that you're watching, how you're rating the content. All of this actually flows into a core data model that recommends the next movie that you want to see on Netflix. So when you watch Netflix next time, do consider the fact what has gone into the place for showing you that next movie on that tile that you are just browsing through. That's the core data loop, and of course there are multiple other companies that are using it. Netflix is the prime example there. Let's talk about another type of loop, and this is something that you would have read in some of the books, such as hooked model. A lot of the companies really realize that there is a core compulsion that you can actually create within a user behavior, and that is how you create habits within users when they actually start using your product. So that is inducing a habitual repeat behavior within a fixed time frame. Typically, you'd see there would be a trigger that probably comes in form of a notification, asks you to do some sort of a action onto that, which is a probably listening to a song, or probably say replying to a comment from your friend on a network such as Facebook. Gives you a variable reward at times. The thing that you've interacted with gives you really variable kind of reward in terms of say elation that you get. There could be a celebration. At times, there could be a disappointment, and that makes this loop really interesting because of unpredictable nature of the reward. This is where people have this inherent psychology. You might have read of that peanut experiment that was done with the monkeys. Uh, the more the reward was variable for the user or for the monkey, the more this person, this monkey had the urge to really interact with that ecosystem again and again. So every time a monkey really tapped a button, there was a peanut, I think a peanut or some other, a banana probably that was given to him. And then at times when he pressed the button, it wasn't really available. So that meant a lot of those monkeys started playing and pressing the button again and again. And that is the monkey brain that we all possess. Probably inherent to any living organism that exists on the earth, at least. Say the more the reward is variable, the better are the chances for you to say keep say wanting more of that same experience. This is also explained by the dopamine rush that you get with gambling, for example. So every time you interact with the loop, every time you find a different result after say that gamble, that actually creates even more say urge for you to come back to that loop and say try that. Casinos understand that, and that's where casinos are some of the most profitable businesses as well in the world. So very strong compulsion loops exist. Typically, there's a queue for user to complete an action through a notification, through an email. You'd find that action requested. There'll be a very specific action that a user needs to do. there would be unpredictable reward and a valuable and invaluable return after say completing that action, and then eventually thereby that creates a sort of emotional investment or a sort of time commitment that a user has given, at times even money based commitments as well. Stock markets are addictive, you would have heard. That is something where you invested something. Every single time you interact with that platform, you get a variable reward out of that, and that really makes you yearn for the next trigger. When does that come in? I think that's where there is say social responsibility aspect of it as well. A lot of the gaming companies are aware of this. So now you would see a lot of say responsible watching behavior, responsible phone time apps that are coming in for say limiting that behavior in there for the users. But it's basically a core concept that you can utilize to really create those core experiences for yourself and for your product. Then think about all the games. Why are games so addictive? Think of Clash of Clans, think of Farmville, think of Mafia Wars. Every time you interacted with this game, you actually added and created an investment within this game. I think Farmville would be something that everyone would relate back to. It was a say a huge success when it was launched by Zynga. And you saw people paying for virtual properties, virtual assets. Why were people doing that? It was primarily because of the compulsion that was created, the habit that was created, the dopamine rush that everyone experienced when they saw their farms growing, their investments really giving returns. Age of Empires was a prime example in its let's say early avatar when Microsoft Studios launched that. Most of the games are prime examples of compulsion loops in there. Of course, Facebook also employs that. Your OTT services also employ that. Every other product company has really adapted this and adopted these practices from the successful games that you would see in there. Then think of social loop. That is the third type of loop that we have. So this is basically really creating content in such a way that it is really wide and consumable and scalable in terms of its own generation capability itself. So this is slightly more complex. Think of communities that are built on top of it. Think of Quora, why Quora became such a big hit in there. And typically, this also really relates back and pulls out from your inherent biases in there. So essentially, everyone wants to be recognized for something in their say life. That actually is where you carefully cultivate profiles. You capture implicit and explicit signals for content consumption, even creation from YouTube, from users as such. Example is YouTube, for example. The way blogging has taken a big hit, as a big explosion again on that front. You've actually defined the social currency around your profile. So Instagram, for example, why influencers were created as such. You really create something that becomes of a prestige, say that really becomes a prestige kind of an issue for the users in there, and thereby they actually want to increase their value in terms of the prestige itself. That's where that creates a social currency for those users itself. So influencers are typical examples of having that social currency working for them. Celebrities in their original worlds without digital media were already doing that, but then Twitter exploded and really created that experience at a different scale for them. Then you actually want to create content. You want to reward the contribution. Think of Twitter. Why would you tweet as an influencer or say even as a user, probably with the notion of engaging, gaining more followers. There's a reward for every action that you do. You'd create and tag events and your tweets in there. You would create sub funnels or sub loops within each content that you would generate. That creates the next action trigger for yourself. And then you create a lot of the content which is user generated by itself. Really creates a community wherein community would be interested in reading that content which is generated by the community, but probably with people of high significance who can contribute onto that more ably. So you see uh, your feed on Facebook is adapted based on what your friends have say talked about on the walls. That becomes most relevant feed for you, and that's where your consumption is curated for that. Think of Twitter; it is really based on the people that you follow. Instagram again, an example. Quora again is an example wherein every time that you answer a particular question, your rank actually increases. The more questions you answer, more upvotes you get, the better your profile becomes. More content you would create, more people would read your content, for example, and that creates that entire loop, and that becomes a core community-based network for social connections, and social loop really is working at that point. So everyone wants to associate with the community. They want a special place within the community in itself, uh, and that is the core uh, say user bias or human nature that you try and exploit within this loop itself. So we'll talk about an example here as well, and that of course is a lot of social networking sites, a lot of trip rating sites. TripAdvisor really grew a lot based on that. Zomato grew. Instagram again, prime example of that. Facebook benefited. Amazon has reviews as well. Wikipedia, or who can forget that? Wikipedia really became such a sensation, something which was really helpful. People contributed to Wikipedia as a platform because they wanted to be perceived as helpful within the community itself, increase their rank, and then Quora really took it to the next level. There are Quora influencers in there as well, people who answer questions and engage with our community on a regular basis. That becomes a core social loop powered by community and inherent nature of humans to really gain that special safe place within the community that they are part of or they feel strongly about. And then lastly, the fourth important loop that you've heard so many times is virality, the viral loop. This is one of the most difficult loops to actually execute generally. Every company wants to be viral. It's a growth strategy, not easy to crack at all. Refers basically to the use steps a user goes through before between entering an experience and inviting the next set of say users. That is the core aspect that you need to think about. What are the actions that a user really needs to go through? What is the funnel looking like in there to really say experience a product to such an extent that they are elated to an extent that they'll share it out with their network and help the product grow in itself. Generally, it will start with the use. People would start using a product, they'll evaluate it, they'll share it, and then everyone who hears about it would start using it. So again, similar things such as having a strong social currency, being able to come say be perceived as someone of value within your community. You would actually say go to the extent of sharing this within your community. There are triggers and emotions that you tap into. There is a public say element of how which are the trends which are really working for the public right now. What are the core stories that you would want to establish as part of your product say virality itself. And that is a practical value your product gives at the end of the day to the end user. That really helps them be a brand ambassador for your product. That, of course, is the cheapest form of user acquisition and the fastest form of user acquisition if you are able to crack this, of course. So basically, same triggers and same actions and steps ensue in this one as well. Create some sort of a viral hook within your product. Identify what is the intrinsic value that your product provides to them, to the user, and then why do people would want to share something like that. So think about how some of the best viral products actually grew. We'll talk about an example again in the next slide. But as you think about viral loop, think about these core problems again. Steps would be really find the right people so that they see and hear about your product for the first place in the first place. That's really thinking about something like a top-down funnel if you look at a marketing funnel, but then creating a loop within that funnel itself. So you go when you plan for this strategy, you would actually again think about the same things in there. You would want to create an understanding of where the potential users would see or hear about your product. You need to think about how will you lead your users to the right actions again. How will the next set of people see or encounter your product from there? And users must instantly see the product's value and say basically align with the motivation in there to share. Think about TikTok, how it grew so strongly. So very small videos, instant gratification led to instant share on social media. Proliferation of social media, of course, helped. But think of the core products, Gmail, for example. How did Gmail grow? Gmail actually grew a lot by, say, your own referrals into your own community itself. So best products always have employed virality in some form or the other. With the advent of social media, that has just that has just gone on steroids right now. So there are opportunities, but you have to exploit them very, very carefully because uh, wrongly executing this can actually lead to backfires as well. So let's talk about company that really used this to a great extent. And remember this, this was Pokemon Go, almost a sensation. People actually lost track of where they were. They kept on playing a lot of that of this game. Virtual reality was in thing. Then you had your community in there. A community of friends that had an inherent value and association with Pokemon while they had grown in their childhood. They wanted to get other users into that, and then it had a hook every time you actually captured a Pokemon in there. You would want to share your achievement with your group, and thereby creating that loop. This is one app that really grew so strongly that it became case study for most of the organizations how you could actually exploit say virality and say grow to a large user base. Now it's actually in its fifth year. uh, Virality isn't so big now, but I think at least the growth phase of it really saw that exploding itself. So yeah, that's primarily what I wanted to discuss on the loops part of it. And yeah, that brings us to our last poll on this. What product loops do you think OTT apps such as Netflix use? Basically, try and answer based on what where you've seen those loops being used, and then we'll attempt this one as well. I purposefully did not talk about Netflix on this, but of course, many of these loops may apply to them as well. So yeah, again on your cue, Shama, whenever.
Yep, we'll give them a few more seconds to vote.
Sure.
Okay, so we have about 70% of them saying it's all of the above, and 9 to 13% saying data and social.
Yeah, so data, we already talked about the example in there. Compulsion, do you see compulsion existing in there? Yes, I would agree. Compulsion is one loop that Netflix is able to tap into, because every time you watch a movie, there's a trigger to watch the next in there. Especially works on the binge watching that has just come up with, say, OTT platforms booming in there. Social. Um, of course, there is a social element of, say, you watching something on Netflix and then sharing it to your, say, network. For example, Money Heist is one such big series that actually helped, say, Netflix grow. I think, say, Game of Thrones was also an example for HBO in US. Actually proliferated that subscription for them. Uh, think about viral way Netflix grew. I would say viral. I haven't really seen a correct example of viral being there, or the exact example of virality being there. But I think the way Netflix also grew, I think they also have this, especially on the mobile devices now, a share function and referral to your network in there. I think they also offer a free subscription uh, for about a month time when you actually share it with your network. So I think that virality or incentivization actually has helped them recently. I think on the uh, mobile playing field, but I think that is one challenge that probably has been cracked to some extent, may not have been cracked to a full extent there as well. But yeah, I guess all of the above really also applies to this. Do you think about the concept that you learned today? So all the companies that we talked about, all the companies are the ones that you probably interacted with or know of within your day-to-day experiences, and you see all of them actually using product loops as well as network effects in some form or the other. What does that tell you in the end? So I would really like to submit my final summarization of this. I think in today's day and age, there is a heightened set of user expectations, and there's strong competition to take up that user pie from various companies. Now, if you are a digital product, or even for a say a physical product which is trying to build its real connect with the users, I think products must capitalize on the opportunities to build and scale strong consumer connect. And that's where you can actually start harnessing the network effects actually exist in various parts of the ecosystem. There is user side, there's supplier side, ancillary platform and ecosystem effects. All three can be utilized in such a way that it actually creates a strong mode for the product. And then it's not just important to create that network effect in its initial phase. For that network effect to keep working for you, you actually have to invest in continuously improving your product, and that is where reinvention, innovation comes in. That's your ability as a product manager or a product guy or a product company to unlock that product say value for the users and really improve your product at every subsequent interaction that occurs. That's one of the key tools that a PM can really learn from while they are working on core products. As such, very strong, differentiated, and personalized experiences have been created by companies in their earlier forms, and there is tremendous opportunity to really disrupt the ecosystem in the newer age and even the newer ecosystem that exists today. So that's my submission. That's my summary to you based on this discussion that we had today. I think it was a really great session to find such interest in this topic. And I hope I was able to add value to some of your thought process, some of your the way you thought about products overall. So, of course, just to reiterate, in case there are further questions, do reach out to me on LinkedIn. or follow me on my website, crackthepm at graphy.com, and would love to hear all your thoughts in there. Maybe we can answer questions, but I'm not sure how we are doing on time. So, Kunal.
We will take a couple of questions, but this has been a really interesting session, Akhil, to be very frank. I was not aware of that. There's so much in comes to network effect. So on a lighter note, the network effect from you has taken over totally on me. So I'm going to definitely try it out for sure in my organizations on this topic. So thanks a lot for your lovely insights on this topic. A couple of questions. I definitely see a lot of questions coming in, but one which I find very interesting is one from Zulfikar Sheikh. He's asking, how does the organization project the income from network effects to some companies like Facebook, income sources from the other network effects also?
Actually, it's very difficult to project income directly coming from network effects. It's one of the strategies that can actually help you explode as a product, go to the next orbit in terms of the user revenue itself. So, of course, it's an exponential curve. If you want to do the maths in there, there is a possibility for you to actually do that math and say identify what is a critical mass for your product to really grow. Generally, most of the companies do not realize this. Say what is the actual critical mass for that product to grow at a particular point. There comes a time within every product journey wherein you start seeing that exponential curve where the slope of your user growth starts changing for the better, and those are the years. That's a signal for you that your product has hit that curve, and it is actually becoming one of the products that is going to grow exponentially. That is the network effect. At that point, probably you can then extrapolate your revenues. I think that's where a lot of company valuations come in. That's where IPOs happen when people know that this network effect which is already running in a company, and then you are able to project the next phase of growth. And that's why if you see the PE multiples for some of the companies such as Amazon or say even the tech companies, at times they far surpass the earnings in there, and that is primarily because the factor of growth is too high for them, and that is because they are on the exponential curve itself. So there is a definite math in there. If you are interested, maybe you can say try and study some of the recent IPOs that have happened in this industry. Maybe study Facebook IPO as well, how that was valued during that time, because it had by that time moved into the exponential curve. It would be very difficult to say estimate it at an early stage for a company, say, which is right now just starting out, because you never know whether you have and achieve that, you would be able to achieve that critical mass in them.
Great.
Does that answer?
Hope this answers your question, Zulfikar. There's a query coming from Jeff James, and I think you mentioned about a book of talking about habits and repeat behaviors. Could you please mention the name again for him?
Yeah, so that is a very famous book in there. So that is by the name of a Hooked Model by Neil. That is actually the Bible of creating those habit and compulsion loops. Very interesting insights that I found with that book. I would recommend everyone to read that if you're really looking at building core engagement models for users in there.
And this is a very interesting question.
Was also one of the speakers within the product festival. I think I saw his name as one of the speakers in that. So maybe there's an opportunity for you to really get back to some of the videos that have been posted around that. But just a simple Google search when you see say hooked would actually give you that result itself.
Great, thanks, Akhil. There's a very interesting question from Balambika Ganeshan. He's asking, is compulsion loop ethical, which is majorly followed by many major products like PhonePe, even Netflix, right?
Yes.
So it improves business drastically and makes the product reach to higher users. End of the day, making an user addicted to a product can be validated. He's asking.
So, yeah, I think Yeah, that is where the responsibility element really comes in with companies as well. I think, of course, during the start, every company wants to create some sort of a habit of using a product, using their own product for the users. But there comes a time when really users can get addicted to that. Phones, for example, mobile phones are actually at that point. So it's almost a compulsion every time you see that notification uh, bell in your ear, and say when you hear that, you are say subconsciously drawn to your phone and you open it up. So I think that's where some of the new experiences have been coming up, wherein phone companies have added additional layer of limiting your phone time. For example, uh, screen times as well are some of the things that are there. So of course, there's a very thin line between the ethical element of it and how you would want to grow. But I think the best companies are able to still tread that ethical line in there, and they do not really cross that, while at the same time build responsible consumption patterns for the users in there. So yeah, I think as a product manager, you definitely need to empathize with users, but also think about how you can actually help a user when they need your product in there. So there's this thin line, very fine balance. Of course, very difficult question to answer right away for anyone who's really looking to build this compulsion loop. I think this comes to a stage when the products actually become so big that it actually becomes addictive at that point. I think in its initial form, that is of course one of the best tools for you to actually grow your product.
Cool. And guys, we are on the top of the hours, and there are a couple of more questions. We will try to answer those. We will get back to Akhil and try to get those answers for you. But I will finally now to again thank you, Akhil, for wonderful session. It was really interesting and insightful. I would like to now Shama to please come and do the conclusion here.
Right. For the last part of the session, let's pick the best question, Kunal. And
So
I
no
will
doubt,
also suggest.
it is Valambika Ganeshan. So that's a very beautiful question which he has asked, and I hope Akhil was able to answer.
Congratulations, Balambika, on winning the Graham Scholarship of $200. So we'll get in touch with you with the reward shortly. Thank you for participating.
Congratulations, Balambika.
We have enjoyed having you with us, Akhil. It's been a complete pleasure. The keynote was very engaging with some relevant and useful insights that our audience can take back and apply in their work life as well. So, as a small gesture, a token of appreciation from the Institute. So, if you scan the QR code on the certificate, it will take you to a dedicated Hall of Fame page that we have created for you, and it will hold the recording of this session. So, we'll be sharing it on our YouTube channel, and you can share it in your network as well. And once again, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts.